Welcome, everyone. Today, you are about to enter one of the most important stories in human history. This is the true story of a sickly boy who entered a world of betrayal, civil war, and collapsing political order. He had no army, no military record, and almost no experience. He was only 18 when Julius Caesar was murdered. Most people believed he would fail. Some laughed at him. Some thought they could use him. Others wanted him dead. But the young man watched, waited, learned, and slowly became the most powerful ruler in the Roman world. His name was Octavian. History remembers him as Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Julius Caesar changed Rome through force. Augustus rebuilt it through patience. Caesar showed his power. Augustus often hid his. Caesar moved quickly. Augustus waited for the right moment. This is a story about timing, strategy, emotional control, and the danger of underestimating a quiet person. The English is simple, so you can learn naturally while following the story. Stay until the end, because the final lesson of Augustus is not only about Rome, it is about your own life. Subscribe to Timeless Stories. Here, we tell stories that help you grow stronger. Now let us begin. Augustus was born in 63 BC. His birth name was Gaius Octavius. He was born in a town called Velitrae, not far from Rome. His family was respected, but it did not belong to the highest and most ancient group of Roman nobles. His father, also named Gaius Octavius, was a successful public official. His mother, Atia, came from a more powerful family. She was the niece of Julius Caesar. That connection would later change the course of history. But when Octavius was born, nobody knew what kind of future was waiting for him. He was not known for physical strength. He was often ill. He did not look like a soldier. He did not seem like the kind of boy who would one day command armies, control the Senate, and rule lands from Spain to Egypt. Roman society admired strength. It respected military courage. It celebrated men who could speak loudly in public, lead soldiers into battle, and show confidence before large crowds. Octavius did not seem to fit that image. But a person can look weak while developing a powerful inner world. Octavius studied carefully. He listened closely. He learned how important people spoke. He watched how families built alliances. He noticed how pride could destroy powerful men. He understood early that power in Rome did not belong only to the strongest person. It often belonged to the person who knew when to speak, when to wait, and when to act. When Octavius was still young, his father died. This loss changed his life. He was raised under the close care of his mother and grandmother. He received a strong education. He learned Roman traditions. He studied public speaking. He learned about religion, law, duty, and family honor. He also learned that a famous family name could open doors, but a famous name could also create danger. As Octavius grew older, Julius Caesar began to notice him. Caesar was already one of the most important men in Rome. He had conquered Gaul. He had crossed the Rubicon River with his army. He had defeated his political enemies. He had become dictator. Caesar saw something in the quiet young man. He saw seriousness. He saw discipline. He saw determination. He may also have seen ambition. Octavius wanted to prove himself. When Caesar was fighting in Spain, Octavius tried to join him. The journey was difficult. Octavius became ill. He arrived later than planned, but he continued even when the road was dangerous. Caesar was impressed. The older man began to see the younger one as more than a family member. He began to see him as someone with potential. Octavius did not know how important this attention would become. He did not know that Caesar was quietly making a decision that would place the future of Rome on the shoulders of an 18-year-old boy. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar entered a meeting of the Roman Senate. He was one of the most powerful men in Roman history. But his power frightened many senators. They believed he wanted to destroy the Roman Republic. They feared he wanted to rule like a king. A group of conspirators surrounded him. They pulled out knives. They attacked him again and again. Caesar died on the floor. Rome was shocked. The man who had defeated armies had been killed by men he knew. The conspirators believed they had saved the Republic. But Caesar's death did not bring peace. It opened the door to chaos. Across the Roman world, leaders asked the same question: who would take Caesar's place? Mark Antony believed the answer was clear. He had been Caesar's friend and general. He was older. He was experienced. He was close to the army. He had influence, confidence, and power. He expected to control Caesar's political legacy. Then Caesar's will was read. The result shocked Rome. Caesar had adopted Octavius as his son. He had named him his main heir. In one moment, the quiet teenager became the legal son of Julius Caesar. He received Caesar's name. He received part of Caesar's wealth. But he also received Caesar's enemies. He became Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus. Today, we usually call him Octavian. He was only 18 years old. Many people advised him to stay away from Rome. They told him the situation was too dangerous. They said Mark Antony was too powerful. They said Caesar's killers still had supporters. They said the young heir would be destroyed. Octavian listened carefully. Then he ignored the fear. He traveled to Italy. He accepted the inheritance. He accepted the name. And with that decision, he accepted the war that came with it. This was the first great test of his life. He could have chosen safety. He could have lived quietly. He could have walked away from danger, but sometimes a person's future begins with a decision that looks impossible. Octavian did not know exactly how he would win. He only knew that he would not disappear. When Octavian entered Roman politics, Mark Antony did not respect him. Why should he? Antony was a famous commander. He had soldiers. He had political experience. He had stood beside Caesar. Octavian had almost nothing except a powerful name, but that name mattered. Caesar's soldiers remembered their general. Ordinary people admired Caesar. Many veterans believed Caesar's adopted son should continue his work. Octavian understood the emotional power of this connection. He did not try to compete with Antony in physical strength. He competed in loyalty. He used his inheritance to pay money that Caesar had promised to the Roman people. He met Caesar's former soldiers. He spoke as the adopted son of the murdered leader. He reminded everyone that Caesar's will had chosen him. At first, his forces were small. His position was uncertain. But he grew stronger. This was one of the most important moments in the story. Octavian did not wait for everyone to accept him. He acted before he was fully ready. He built power while older men were still laughing. He also formed temporary relationships with people who did not truly trust him. The Roman Senate feared Mark Antony. Some senators believed Octavian could help them stop him. Cicero, one of Rome's greatest speakers, supported the young man for a time. Cicero believed Octavian could be guided and controlled. He thought the Senate could use the boy and remove him later. Octavian understood this, but he did not reveal his anger. He accepted the support. He allowed older men to believe they were using him. While they made plans around him, he studied how each of them thought. Soon, politics became war. Armies moved across Italy. Octavian gained official military command. He proved that he was not going to disappear. Then he made a decision that shocked Rome. Instead of continuing to fight Mark Antony, he joined him. Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus formed the Second Triumvirate. It was not a friendship. It was a legal alliance created to control Rome and destroy the killers of Julius Caesar. Before fighting enemies far away, the three men removed danger at home. They published lists called proscriptions. Anyone named on them could be killed, and his property could be taken. One of the most famous victims was Cicero. He had attacked Antony and once believed he could control Octavian. But Octavian accepted his death to preserve the alliance. This was one of the darkest moments of his rise. It showed that the quiet young man could be patient, intelligent, and extremely cold. The triumvirs then marched against Brutus and Cassius, two leaders of Caesar's murder. At Philippi in 42 BC, their armies won. Brutus and Cassius both died by suicide. Caesar had been avenged. But once the common enemy was gone, the alliance began to break. The three rulers now had more reason to fear one another than to remain united. After Philippi, Antony controlled much of the east, while Octavian controlled the west. Lepidus slowly lost influence. Octavian still faced rebellion, hunger, angry landowners, and the difficult task of settling Caesar's veterans. He made mistakes, but he survived and learned how to manage soldiers' public anger. His greatest military partner was Marcus Agrippa. Agrippa understood ships, engineering, and battle. Octavian understood politics and people. Together, they formed a powerful team. This partnership teaches an important lesson. Strong leaders do not need to do everything themselves. They need to recognize talent and trust the right person. Octavian eventually removed Lepidus from real power. Only two great rivals remained, Octavian in the west, Mark Antony in the east. Antony had married Octavian's sister, Octavia, to protect the peace. But he became deeply connected to Cleopatra, the intelligent and ambitious queen of Egypt. Cleopatra had once been connected to Julius Caesar and had a son named Caesarion. Now she and Antony created a powerful Eastern court. To many Romans, it looked foreign, royal, and dangerous. Octavian saw that Antony could be defeated before the first ship entered battle. He could be defeated inside the minds of the Roman people. Octavian began to shape a public message. He did not simply say Antony was his political enemy. He said, Antony had betrayed Rome. He presented Cleopatra as a foreign queen who controlled him. He claimed, Antony was giving Roman lands to Cleopatra and her children. He suggested that Antony wanted to move the center of power away from Rome. This message was powerful. Roman people feared kings. They feared foreign control. They feared the idea that a Roman general had forgotten his identity. Octavian made the coming war look different. It would not be Octavian against Antony. It would be Rome against Cleopatra. This was political storytelling. Octavian understood that people do not respond only to facts. They respond to meaning. They respond to fear. They respond to identity. They respond to a simple story that tells them who is loyal and who is dangerous. Antony made his own position worse. He separated from Octavia. He stayed with Cleopatra. He held great ceremonies in the East. He gave titles and territories to Cleopatra's children. Each action made Octavian's story easier to believe. Then Octavian gained access to Antony's will. He presented parts of it to the Roman Senate. The document appeared to show Antony's desire to be buried in Alexandria. To many Romans, this was shocking. Octavian had what he needed. The Senate declared war on Cleopatra. The final struggle had begun. In 31 BC, the forces of Octavian and the forces of Antony and Cleopatra met near Actium, on the western coast of Greece. The future of the Roman world depended on this battle. Octavian's fleet was led by Agrippa. Agrippa had prepared carefully. He attacked enemy supply lines. He captured important positions. He weakened Antony before the main battle began. This is an important lesson. Victory often begins before the final fight. It begins with preparation. It begins with controlling resources. It begins with making the enemy tired, confused, and isolated. Antony and Cleopatra had many ships, but their situation was difficult. Their soldiers were sick. Their supplies were limited. Their commanders disagreed. Their confidence was falling. During the naval battle, Cleopatra's ships sailed away. Antony followed her. The exact reason is still debated. Maybe it was part of a planned escape. Maybe they believed the battle was lost. Maybe confusion destroyed their command. Whatever the reason, Antony's remaining forces were left behind. Octavian won. Actium was not only a military victory, it was the end of the old competition. 1 year later, Octavian entered Egypt. Antony believed Cleopatra was dead and tried to take his own life. He was badly wounded. He died after being brought to her. Cleopatra soon chose death as well. She refused to be taken to Rome as a prisoner. The world of Antony and Cleopatra ended. But Octavian still had one more problem. Caesarion. Cleopatra's son could be presented as the natural son of Julius Caesar. As long as he lived, he could become a symbol for Octavian's enemies. Octavian ordered his death. Again, the decision was cold. Again, power came before mercy. Now there was no rival left. Octavian controlled Egypt. He controlled Rome. He controlled the army. He controlled the future. But winning power and keeping power are not the same thing. Julius Caesar had won enormous power. Then he had been murdered. Octavian had studied that lesson carefully. He knew he must rule differently. Romans hated the word king. They believed their ancestors had removed kings long ago. Even Caesar had been killed, partly because people feared he wanted a crown. Octavian understood this, so he did not declare himself king. He did not announce that the republic was dead. He acted as if he were restoring it. In 27 BC, he appeared before the Senate and gave up some of his powers. The action looked humble. It looked generous. But the Senate gave important powers back to him. They also gave him a new title, Augustus. The word carried ideas of honor, greatness, and sacred respect. Octavian became Augustus. He also called himself princeps. This meant first citizen. It sounded less threatening than king. But behind the careful language, Augustus controlled the military and the most important provinces. He influenced the Senate. He controlled appointments. He held power for life. This was his greatest political creation. He built a monarchy without openly calling it a monarchy. He changed the Roman system while claiming to protect it. He allowed old offices to continue. He allowed senators to speak. He kept the appearance of tradition. But the center of real power rested with him. Augustus understood human nature. People often resist sudden change, but they accept gradual change when it brings safety. Rome had suffered years of civil war. Families had lost sons. Cities had faced hunger. Political leaders had murdered one another. The people were tired. Augustus offered order. He offered stability. He offered peace. And because he gave people what they needed most, they accepted what Rome had once feared. One-man rule. Augustus ruled for more than 40 years. He reorganized the army, gave soldiers regular pay, fixed periods of service, and retirement rewards. This made the army more professional and tied its loyalty to the system he controlled. He improved tax collection and provincial government. He supported roads, trade, communication, temples, and public buildings. He also encouraged writers, such as Virgil and Horace, because he understood that power is built not only with soldiers, but also with stories, symbols, laws, and memory. The stability connected to his reign became known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. This did not mean there were no wars. Rome still fought on its borders, faced rebellions, and suffered military losses. But much of the empire became more stable. Trade increased. Cities grew. Roads connected distant lands. Roman administration expanded. Augustus had inherited a world of civil war. He left behind an organized system that could continue after him. He also transformed the image of Rome. Temples were repaired. Public spaces improved. New buildings showed that disorder had ended. The Capitol became a symbol of the stable future he wanted the empire to believe in. As Augustus grew older, he continued to work. His health remained imperfect, but his habits were disciplined. He read reports. He communicated with officials. He watched the borders. He thought constantly about what would happen after his death. He knew Rome could return to civil war if the transfer of power failed. So he gave Tiberius more authority before the end. He made the transition gradual. He also wrote a record of his achievements. This work is known as the Res Gestae. It described the offices he held, the money he gave, the buildings he created, the enemies he defeated, and the peace he brought. It was not only a historical record, it was his final message. Augustus wanted future generations to remember his life in a specific way. Not as the young man who joined deadly proscriptions, not as the ruler who removed rivals, not as the politician who used propaganda. He wanted to be remembered as the man who restored Rome. This is another form of power, the power to shape memory. In 14 AD, Augustus became seriously ill while traveling. He was near Nola, the place where his father had died many years earlier. His long journey was almost over. According to ancient writers, he spoke calmly near the end. One famous story says he asked whether he had played his role well in the drama of life. Then he asked for applause as he left the stage. Whether every word is exact or not, the story fits him. Augustus had spent his life managing appearances. He knew that leadership was partly performance. He knew people watched the face of power. He knew calm behavior could create confidence. He died at the age of 75. Tiberius became the next ruler. Rome did not immediately fall into civil war. The system continued. That was Augustus's greatest victory. Not Actium, not Egypt, not the defeat of Antony. His greatest victory was that Rome survived his death. Do not fear being underestimated. Older men saw Octavian as weak, young, and inexperienced. Their mistake gave him time to grow. When people do not see your ability, do not waste all your energy arguing. Improve quietly and let your work answer them. An opportunity is only a beginning. Octavian inherited Caesar's name, but a name did not make him emperor. He still had to act, build support, survive danger, and make difficult decisions. What you do with an opportunity matters more than receiving it. Choose people who are strong where you are weak. Agrippa had military and engineering skills that Octavian needed. Augustus did not have to be the best at everything. He had to recognize talent, build trust, and give the right person responsibility. Control your emotions before they control your future. Augustus rarely reacted immediately. He waited, studied the situation, and chose the moment that gave him the greatest advantage. Patience is not doing nothing. It is refusing to let anger make your decisions. Build systems, not only victories. Actium gave Octavian control. The army, taxes, roads, laws, and succession plan made his rule last. One success can disappear. A strong system can continue when you are tired, absent, or gone. Know when ambition has reached its limit. Augustus wanted Rome to become stronger, but he also learned that endless expansion could bring disaster. Wisdom is not only knowing when to move forward, it is also knowing when to stop and protect what you have built. Legacy is what remains after you leave. Augustus prepared Tiberius and recorded his achievements because he knew he would not live forever. Your legacy may not be an empire. It may be a family, a business, a lesson, or a kind action. The question is not only what you achieve, it is what your achievement leaves behind. Augustus began as a sickly boy with an uncertain future. He inherited a famous name, but he also inherited danger. He entered Rome with no clear path to victory. He faced experienced generals, angry senators, civil war, betrayal, and fear. He survived because he observed carefully. He learned quickly. He controlled his emotions. He chose strong allies. He understood timing. And when the wars were over, he did something more difficult than conquest. He built order. He changed Rome from a broken republic into an empire that would influence the world for centuries. His life reminds us that power does not always enter the room loudly. Sometimes it enters quietly. Sometimes it looks young. Sometimes it looks weak. Sometimes it says very little. And while everyone else is speaking, it is preparing. But Augustus also reminds us to ask a harder question. What price are we willing to pay for success? A strong future should not be built without conscience. Patience is powerful. Discipline is powerful. Strategy is powerful. But character matters too. Because the empire you build outside yourself means little if you lose everything inside yourself. If this story touched you, I would love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which part of Augustus's life stayed with you the most? Was it the moment the 18-year-old boy accepted Julius Caesar's dangerous inheritance? Was it the Battle of Actium, when patience and preparation defeated Antony and Cleopatra? Or was it the moment Augustus grew old and prepared Rome to survive after his death? And if you enjoyed learning English through this story, please like the video and subscribe to Timeless Stories. Here, we do more than study words. We enter the lives of people who changed history. We learn from their courage. We learn from their mistakes, and one story at a time, we grow stronger. Thank you for listening. Keep learning, keep thinking, and keep building your future with patience. Until we meet again on Timeless Stories.